Welcome to Algebra 2. This is Semester 1, Chapter 3, Section 3 from Big Ideas Math. And our essential question today is how can you complete the square for a quadratic expression? Now, before we get into the meat and potatoes of this, let's go ahead and solve using square roots. So look at this. It says solve x squared minus 16x plus 64 equals 100. And at first, you should be thinking, wait, no, this isn't the best method. Square root method is not the best method for me because I know that there's an x squared term and an x term, and so I have two terms with x's, and this is not how you taught me to do it. Okay, fine, you're right. But this is special. This is called a perfect square trinomial. And because it is a perfect square trinomial, it can be factored very quickly and very easily. What multiplies to make 64 and adds to make 16? It's an 8 and an 8. And in order to multiply to make a positive 64 and a negative 16, they both need to be negative. Which means this problem can actually be written just like this. The quantity of x minus 8 squared equals 100. Now this, I can totally solve using square roots. In fact, pretty quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and square root both sides. So I get x minus 8 equals plus or minus the square root of 100. So x minus 8 equals plus or minus 10. Add the 8 to both sides. You get x equals 8 plus or minus 10. So you have 8 plus 10 or 8 minus 10. So x equals 18 or x equals negative 2. All right, so we took something, it looked a little intimidating, but we factored it knowing it was a perfect square trinomial, and we were able to solve it using the direct method of square roots pretty quickly, and we got our answers. All right, so let's just try a couple more here. It's x squared plus 4x plus 4, and you should be thinking in your mind, hey, that's a 2. So we've got the quantity of x squared plus 2, and it's equal to 36. All right, so I'm going to square root both sides. So x plus 2 is equal to plus or minus 6. So x is equal to negative 2 plus or minus 6. Negative 2 plus 6 is 4. And negative 2 minus 6 is negative 8. All right, number 2. X squared minus 6x plus 9 equals 1. Immediately you see that 9 and you say to yourself, hey, 9 comes from a 3. And 3 plus 3 for sure makes 6. But because it's a negative, you need a negative, because that 6 is a minus. You need the negative there. Okay, I forgot the square, didn't I? So I have the quantity of x minus 3 squared equals 1. I'm going to go ahead and square root both sides. So x minus 3 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 1, which is just 1. So x equals 3 plus or minus 1. Well, 3 plus 1 is 4, or 3 minus 1 is 2. All right, last but not least here, x squared plus 22x, minus 22x plus 121 equals 81. Now 121 should be setting off a light bulb in your head there because it comes from an 11 times an 11. And sure enough, 11 plus 11 is 22. So we've got our x, we have an 11, it's in a quantity squared, it's equal to 81. You just need to be careful it's a minus because the 22 was a minus. All right, square root both sides, you get x minus 1 equals plus or minus 9. So x equals 1 plus or minus 9. 1 plus 9 is 10, and 1 minus 9 is negative 8. Okay, here's our core concept sheet. It's talking about doing this thing called completing the square. So to complete the square, what we need to do to an x squared plus bx is add half of b squared. Now they have this nice diagram here, and basically what they've done is they've taken this b value, they broke it into 2, they brought this rectangle down here, as you can see from this picture over here, and it leaves this missing hole here, which is equivalent to half of b squared. Okay, the algebra is x squared plus bx plus half of b squared is equal to, and then they have factored it for us, and this might be a little confusing, so let's just do it. Let's try this. It says find the value of c that makes x squared plus 14x plus c a perfect square trinomial. Then write the expression as a square of a binomial, so pretty much factor it. All right, so the b value is 14. Half of 14 squared is what I need, so 7 squared is 49. So what that means is I have x squared plus 14x plus 49. That is a magical perfect square trinomial. Why are they so awesome? Because you can write them as a square of a binomial. So what multiplies to make 49 adds to make 14? You're looking at a 7, and it's a positive because the 14 is a positive. So we have completed the answer here. Now, what was the value of c? The value c that made it a perfect square trinomial was 49. The square of a binomial is right here. It's the quantity x plus 7 squared. Okay, let's try some more. It says find the value c that makes the expression a perfect square trinomial. Then write the expression as a square of a binomial. We have x squared plus 8x plus c. So you want to take half of 8, which is 4, and 4 squared is 16. So the value of c would be 16. And it would look like x squared plus 8x plus 16. Now, factor that to turn it into your square of a binomial, and you would just get the quantity of x plus 4 squared. Okay, let's keep trying here. X squared minus 2x plus c. Your b value is a negative 2. We take half of it. That's negative 1. Negative 1 squared is 1. So your c value is 1. That means x something 1 quantity squared is our binomial, and that something is a minus because the 2x is a minus. All right, try again. It says x squared minus 9x plus c. Take your b value, Divide it by 2. Can't actually do it. It's going to stay fraction. And square it. So you get 81 over 4. So that means C is 81 over 4. And you have x minus, why is it minus? Because the 9 is minus 9 halves, quantity squared. All right. It says solve by completing the square. So x squared minus 10x plus 7 equals 0. Step 1 is move the, that's a C, that is a C, that is supposed to be a C for the word constant. Move the constant. Okay, well, in order to move it, I'm going to have to subtract. So I have x squared minus 10x equals negative 7. Step 2 is check the a value. To equal 1. Factor if needed. But x squared is already just 1x squared, so we're good there. Step 3 is take half of b, square it, and add to both sides. Okay, so b is negative 10, half of that is negative 5. But when we square negative 5, we get 25. So I have x squared minus 10x plus 25 equals negative 7 plus 25. Okay, now we are going to factor and simplify all in one step here. So factoring gives me x minus 5 quantity squared. And simplifying gives me, think quick, 18. Now they told us to solve, so step 5 is going to be solve. So go ahead and square root both sides. You get x minus 5 equals plus or minus square root 18. So x is equal to 5 plus or minus the square root of 18. It would be nice if we were done, but we're not, because 18 reduces to a 9 and a 2, and a 9 is a 3 and a 3 here. So I'm going to come over here. X equals 5 plus or minus 3 radical 2. And that's my final answer. This answer is a nice answer to give you partial credit. But we want to simplify this as low as we can. Okay, make sure you have all this in your brain, and we're going to move on. So remember, step 1 is move the constant. So I have 3x squared plus 12x equals negative 15. Step 2, check your a value, and guess what? We're going to factor the a value this time. So the 3 factors out, leaving x squared plus 4x. All right, step 3 is take half of your b value, square it, and add to both sides. Now, guys, go slow here. This is serious when you had to factor out an a value. So, here's my 3. Here's my x squared plus 4x. Half of 4 is 2, and 2 squared is 4. So I'm going to write plus 4 over here. And I'm going to change my color so you can really see what happens here. This 3 is going to multiply with this 4. So what you actually add over here is 12. I know, that's different than what we did on the last one. That's because the last one we didn't have to factor out an a value. Think about what's happening. When you add 4 to the left side, you're actually adding the 3 times the 4. That's 12. So to the right side, you need to add the accurate number. That's 12. Okay, so step 4 is your factor and simplify. And simplify. Excuse me. 3 times the quantity x plus 2 squared equals negative 15 plus 12. What's that? Negative 3. Go ahead and divide because we're solving. Whoops, sorry. So number 5 is solve. That's what they've asked us to do here. Divide by 3, divide by 3. The 3's cancel. You get the quantity of x plus 2 squared equals negative 1. Okay, square root, square root. So I have x plus 2 equals plus or minus I. Remember your imaginary numbers, your complex numbers. Subtract the 2 to the other side and you get x equals negative 2 plus or minus I. Great. Let's keep moving. It says solve the equation by completing the square. Okay. I'm going to talk to you about the steps, but I'm going to skip some as I'm writing since I'm limited on space and since you can probably do them. So step 1 is move the constant. So I have x squared minus 4x. If you leave some space and do your equals negative 8, when we take the half of b and square it and add it to both sides, that's what we're about to do here. Since we don't have to factor the a value, since it's a 1 in front of the x squared. Half of negative 4 is negative 2, and negative 2 squared is a positive 4, so that's what I'm going to add to both sides. That makes x minus 2 quantity squared equals negative 4. Okay, I'm going to square root both sides, so I get x minus 2 equals plus or minus 2i. I'm going to add this 2 to both sides and get 2 plus or minus 2i. All right, number 8, it says x squared plus 8x minus 5 equals 0. Step 1 is move the constant. And step 2 is factor the a value. Now I'm lucky again because my a value is 1. So there is no factoring. So I'm already ready to add. So I'm going to take half of 8, which is 4. 4 squared is 16. And so that is what I add to the other side. Now I'm going to factor and solve. So I have x plus 4 in quantity squared. 5 plus 16 is 21. So x plus 4 equals plus or minus square root 21. You should be thinking about whether or not that 21 is going to break down. Subtract the 4 on either side. 21 is a 7 and a 3. None of those are perfect squares, so we are done with that one. Okay, over here we're going to solve. So I'm going to move the constant. I'm going to factor the a value of -3, which turns this into a plus. That's 18, so 18 divided by 3. Have to think for a minute. 6x. I'm going to leave some space. Ooh, this one's going to be close, and that was a +6 when I moved it. Okay, I'm going to take half of 6, which is 3. I'm going to square it, which is 9. But what do I add over to the 6? I'm not even going to write a plus sign down because -3 times 9 is -27. Okay, so this is -3 times the quantity x plus 3 squared equals -21. Now I'm going to divide by 3 on both sides. So I get 7. I need to square root, and I need to subtract the 3, and I'm going to do it at the same time since I'm running out of space here. So I'm going to have x equals -3 plus or minus the square root of 7. Number 10, they moved the constant for us. That was so nice of them. So I'm going to factor out the 4. So that leaves a x squared plus 8x. I'm leaving some space. It's equal to -68. Okay, take half of the b value, square it, add it to both sides. Half of 8 is 4. 4 squared is 16. And then what do you add over to the other side? I hope you said 64. All right, so simplifying and factoring here. I have 4 times the quantity of x plus 4 squared. It's equal to -4. I divide by 4 on both sides and get -1. I square root both sides and get plus or minus I. I subtract the 4 and get -4 plus or minus I. Okay, on number 11 here, the constant is already moved and kind of the factoring's done for us, but we need to be x squared, so I could factor in the 6x and then just factor factor the 6 back out, or I could, oh, I meant to say distribute. I could distribute in the 6x and then factor the 6 back out, or I could just distribute in the x and have it be ready for me. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to have a 6 here. I will have an x squared here plus a 2x here. I'm leaving some space, and it is equal to negative 42. Half of 2 is 1, and 1 squared is 1, so I'm adding 1, which means I'm adding 6. Be careful, remember. Okay, so I have 6 times the quantity x plus 1 squared, and then negative 42 plus 6, negative 36. Divide by 6 on both sides. You get negative 6. So you have x plus 1 equals plus or minus I radical 6. Subtract your 1. You get negative 1 plus or minus I radical 6. Okay, let's use the same technique on number 12 because we want that 2 on the outside. So just distribute the x back in. Excuse me. I've got 2 times the quantity of x squared minus 2x. Leave some space. It equals 200. All right. Half of negative 2 is negative 1. Negative 1 squared is 1. And what do I add over here? I add 2, because 2 times 1 is 2. All right. FOIL and simplify. Factor, I mean. Okay, so I've got 2 times the quantity x minus 1 squared equal to 202. I divide by 2 on both sides. I get x minus 1 quantity squared equals 101. I square root both sides. So x minus 1 is equal to plus or minus the square root of 101. So x equals 1 plus or minus the square root of 101. It says write y equals x squared minus 12x plus 18 in vertex form and identify the vertex. Okay, we're going to follow all the same rules with the y. Here we go. Move the constant. So I have y minus 18 equals x squared minus 12x. Check the a value. Yep, sure enough, it's positive 1. Take half of b, square it, add it to both sides. So y minus 18, I'm going to leave some space so it'll fit there. Here's x squared minus 12x. Half of negative 12 is negative 6. Negative 6 squared is 36. Okay. So simplify and factor. That's y plus 18 equals the quantity of x minus 6 squared. I'm almost done. I just need to subtract the 18, and I get y equals the quantity of x minus 6 squared minus 18, whose vertex is the opposite of what you see and what you see. So 6 and negative 18. Okay, here's some more. Just practice problems for us. Write it in vertex form, identify the vertex. So move the constant. I've got y minus 18. I'm going to leave some space this time. X squared minus 8x. Okay, half of negative 8 is Negative 4. Negative 4 squared is 16. So this is y minus 2 equals the quantity x minus 4 squared. So y equals x minus 4 in quantity squared plus 2, whose vertex is at positive 4, 2. All right, over here, move the constant. Ooh, I'm going to leave some space so I can skip that step. X squared plus 6x. Half of 6 is 3. 3 squared is 9. Okay, so I have y plus 5 equals the quantity of x plus 3 squared. So y equals the quantity x plus 3 squared minus 5. The vertex then is negative 3, negative 5. Oh, and I'm sorry, that is messy, isn't it? Negative 3, negative 5. That's better. We'll erase the other one. Okay, move the constant. Plus 6. X squared minus 2x. Ooh, I should have left space. Half of 2 is 1. 1 squared is 1. So I get y plus 7 equals the quantity of x minus 1 squared. Subtract the 7, and the vertex is 1, negative 7. Great. Okay, the height, y, in feet of a baseball t seconds after it is hit can be modeled by the function y equals negative 16t squared plus 96t plus 3. Find the maximum height of the baseball. How long does it take to hit the ground? Okay, well here's what I know. The height is in feet. T is seconds, so this is time in seconds. And it's probably going to look something like this. Something, you know, I don't know. That's just my sketch. But for sure the negative 16 is telling me it opens downward. Because it is in this unit, I would assume that they're asking us to complete the square, but you know how I feel about calculators. So if I were you, I would just grab your calculator, plug it in, and graph it, and see what you can see. And then calculate the vertex. Okay, so that's what I'm doing right now. And I got 3. 147. So it takes 3 seconds to get to the maximum height. So that's the height of 147 feet. Now, where's the intercept then, is the question. Well, you know that this guy is symmetrical, so if this is a 3 and this is a 0, what's this? I sure hope you said 6. 6 seconds. But you can also calculate that intersection with the x-axis. All right, that's it for this lesson. I hope you're having a great day. I know it was a long one, but completing the square can be fun and it can be a really easy way to solve a quadratic.